Mid studio. Good morning, Trix.
Good morning,
What do you have
Yusuf.
for us?
We have a lot, a helpless White House, we have politics in Kenya and across Africa, and a lot more interesting news making headlines across various outlets that are being, giving news to people around the world. So we're going to take a look at some of our papers that we've sampled and see what's being given priority. Starting us off, as usual, is the African News website that's giving us some news from East Africa. The headline for that story is Kenya votes. Can Syria loser, that is what Raila Odinga is being referred to as, pull off a Buhari, Akufu Addo type of victory. So we know that Buhari ousted an incumbent president, and of course that was the same for Akufu Addo in Ghana. So they're taking references from those of previous elections in other African countries and trying to see, could Raila actually manage this in Kenya in the upcoming election that is quite anticipated, that's going to happen on the 4th of August. So let's move on to another paper and see what's making headlines. We are having on your screen right there the Al Jazeera having a sad story right there, telling us of the unfathomable pain and suffering in Yemen. We know this country is at war. There's a lot of conflict in that country. There are accusations that this war is being influenced by outside elements, people who are not even in that country of Yemen. It's the Gulf, or rather the Middle East poorest country, owing to the conflict, and now we're having a cholera outbreak, and there's more that's happening in that country. So they have made a plea for funding from the outside world to help battle the cholera outbreak as well as the humanitarian crisis. And that was a 2.1 billion donation call for donations, but of course just 33% of that donation has been met. So this is a current ongoing crisis, and it's not getting better. The picture that they've chosen on Al Jazeera just speaks volumes of what's happening currently in Yemen. Let's move on to to more papers and see what's making headlines. This is Atlas. This is an online site that gives us data from across the world, just giving us a picture of what's happening in various parts of the world. So according to this graphic that you see here, Boko Haram killings in 2017, it says between January and June we have had a lot of killings, and in the latest, which was in May, which you see right here, was almost 60 people killed, and this pink bars indicate the number of attacks, while the blue ones indicate the number of victims out of these attacks. So clearly this is to indicate that while the Nigerian government is trying to downplay the effects of the Boko Haram insurgency, it's still a real threat in that part of the continent. Let's move on to the next paper and see what's making headlines. We have right there the BBC giving us an interesting story of a wedding that was electrifying in all the wrong ways, because this father, a Canadian father, was struck by lightning at his daughter's wedding, and he was mid-sentence giving a toast to the bride and the groom. So he was this was right after he told his son-in-law that he's a lucky man. Then lightning struck, but good luck, unfortunately he was not killed. Actually, he's just scarred on his hand, which is good but interesting, and the party carried on even after that unfortunate incident. So take a look at the BBC and see what's happening. That is a really bizarre story. Then the CNN is telling us of a White House that has been paralyzed. We know that the Trump administration had its own agenda. They wanted to repeal the Obamacare. They wanted to enact a new tax code. They wanted to deal with ISIS. But the perennial constant scandals that the White House is facing is making this difficult for it. But now, Donald Trump is headed for France for that event that is upcoming, that we are waiting for. But clearly he's not happy with the momentum that is ongoing with his agenda that he really was for during his campaign period. So we are waiting to see what is expected in Paris, as Donald Trump is expected to touch down anytime soon. I'm being told that he's just landed right now. Let's go to the live pictures in Paris. Now the pictures on your screen are of the Air Force One that has just touched down in Paris, France, where Donald Trump is arriving to meet President Emmanuel Macron. He has been expected there. Just the other day he was at the G20 summit in Germany, took a short break, and now he's off to Paris to meet with the French leader, and he will be attending the Bastille Day festivals that are in Nice, France. So that is going to be an interesting development to hear the worldwide tours that have been really frequent lately, despite the storm that he is facing in terms of the scandals that are with to do with the Russian interactions between him and supposedly the Russian officials. But right now he's expected to be arriving any moment. Actually, he has arrived. He's just expected to come out of the Air Force One right now, and those are the pictures that you are seeing on your screen.
Well, of course, those are live pictures coming our way from Paris, France, where US President Donald Trump is expected. Actually, he has already landed, so we do expect him to meet his counterpart from France. Remember, these are two leaders who are both freshly elected, and Trump's visit, of course, it's historic, Trix, because it comes at a time when he's facing impeachment back at home. You know, issues to do with his relations with Russia, you know, email leaks between, you know, him and one of his sons, I believe, Trump Jr., and how, you know, Russia as a country have influenced the elections there in the US. And it will be very interesting to see this meeting between these two leaders, because these are two leaders who have very different kind of ideologies, I must say. And
it's very interesting, Yusuf. It's very interesting that his son has been thrown into the mix, and it has been proven that he actually went out to meet a lawyer who is very close to the Kremlin, and the reason he went to meet with this lawyer was that this lawyer had information that's going to tarnish the Clinton campaign. So clearly these were efforts to influence the campaign against Hillary Clinton.
There you go, Trix.
Finally,
President Donald Trump is there together with his wife, I believe. And Trix, this will be very interesting, because I must say these are two leaders, that is the French president as well as Donald Trump. They have very different kind of ideologies. And
very
they stand
different
for different
ideologies. Actually, Macron's opponent was more like Donald Trump, and she was hoping that she would be elected just like Donald Trump was elected, being very harsh on immigration and things like that. But unfortunately, this did not work out for her. So Donald Trump and Emmanuel Macron are on completely different sides of the aisle when it comes to dealing with foreign matters borders and, you know, handling their own local politics. But clearly it will be interesting to see what points of convergence they will have in the various discussions they will be having at this meeting.
Now, Trix, speaking about Trump, this is a man who has openly said that he doesn't believe in climate change.
Yes, exactly.
They've cut funding for climate change, and it's something that Macron doesn't believe in.
Exactly. So you're having two leaders, like I said, who are on opposite sides of the aisle. Donald Trump does not believe in opening his arms for people to just come in. Actually, there are reports that he's trying to find a way to curb illegal immigration to the United States, and this is just the opposite to Paris, whereby they're really open to people coming in and from conflict zones and countries that are having troubles of whatever kind, and settle down and find a safe haven. So yeah.
Of course, this is a very historic visit, and reports just in is that Democrat Brad Sherman of California has filed an article of impeachment against Donald Trump, and he accuses the U.S. president of high crimes and misdemeanor. Of course, this comes after he fired his own director of FBI. At the same time, we're getting information that there's some sort of leaked emails between his son and some Russian officials. His presidency, Trix, has been marred by some sort of controversy since day one.
Which brings to mind that headline by the CNN. The White House is actually paralyzed because they had their own agenda. They wanted to fight terrorism. They wanted to make sure that the Obamacare is repealed, and they put forth their own healthcare act that is going to be good for the Americans. But clearly they cannot do anything because all these scandals keep cropping up, all these accusations and all these emails, even from his own son, Donald Trump Jr. So it's making it hard for his administration to do anything actually that is constructive and that is true to the promises he made to those who voted him during the campaign period. So yeah.
And Trix, it must be very interesting because his son has been implicated, has been mentioned adversely in this scandal, and his son-in-law as well. It seems it's a family matter.
It's a family matter, and we know that there has been a lot of questions about why he's actually put his own family in the White House to work with him, and now it's emerging that his family was actually helping, even though his son has said he did not actually tell his father that he was planning to meet this Russian lawyer, but still, what would he have done if he had actually found incriminating evidence from the Russian government that was said that this was part of the Russian government's efforts to help Donald Trump win the election. So this is really a tricky point for Donald Trump and his administration. It was said in some publications that while he was taking some rest between this trip to Paris and the G20 summit that he recently attended, he was just sitting in the White House watching the news and fuming at how much this scandal is taking over, while he was hoping to get things going in terms of all the things he had planned to do during his first days in office.
And of course, Trix, this visit, of course, he was invited by the French president, but people might see it as a chance, for Trump to run away from criticism back home. He promised a wall between America and Mexico in 100 days, and he said clearly that he'll make Mexicans pay for it.
Actually,
it's something that has not yet happened.
It has not yet happened, and it's going to be difficult. How do you make another country pay for something they're not even they did not plan for? So some of these things, like Barack Obama said before Donald Trump won the elections or was inaugurated, this is going to be difficult for him to enact, because his view as a businessman was not in line with his view, what the actual presidency is like. So some of the things he kept saying during the campaign, some of the promises have dawned on him, I'm sure, while he's now in office, but they're not as easy as he would have thought before.
Many thanks, Trix, for your input. Of course, Donald Trump, that is U.S. President, has just landed in Paris, France, where he is expected to meet his French counterpart there. And, this visit, of course, comes at a time when the U.S. continues to slowly drift away from the rest of the world, politically speaking. They have been, mainly because of their various policies to do with immigration, policies to do with climate change. Actually, the Trump presidency, or the Trump administration, have been saying time and again that they don't even believe in climate change.
Exactly.
Of course, that is a story that we're still keenly following for you, and you can join us again on Worldview. That is at 3 p.m. We can as well cover it on News Desk, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Many thanks, Trix, for your input. My name is Yusuf Ibrahim, and that's all we had for you on Worldview this morning. Bye-bye for now, and enjoy the rest of your day.